Hello, one and all. This is my review, reaction, and cut discussion of That Time We Reincarnated Slime, Season 3, Episode 11. And apologies about my whole setup. I'm back home, so I'm using my old camera and microphone, but I will do my best here. And secondly, though, I'm not really sure what to expect this episode, because the ending credits of last week's episode seem to just fully skip past the entire party, which feels like a very weird thing to cut when they've included every meeting and every discussion so far. And then I saw preview images for this episode, and it looks like we're back at the party, so I'm not sure if that was just like, oh no, that wasn't a montage, that was just the end credits for the rest of the season, or what they were planning on doing there, but it's weird. Very, very weird. But either way, let's get started in 3, 2, 1. Okay, this is actually a perfectly understandable way for them to start this episode with the meeting that takes place at the beginning of Volume 8 between Damerda and Grainville, leader of the Rozos, the secret Illuminati that controls the world. Yeah, he had a fairly good idea there was something more going on with Diablo than just being a regular old archdemon, and he still sent Damerda to go face him, which... oh, that's insane. That's not a good argument. Yes, I led you into a trap, but you got away before it could actually spring on you. God, you're a jerk. Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty big failure on their part. I mean, they wanted to get rid of Rimuru or Hinata, but instead the two have joined together and are now way more powerful and way more influential. Seriously, they could not have messed this up more badly. They could have messed this up worse? Oh yeah, also let's not forget that. Their other plan was to stop Rimuru from taking over Falmus and, making it a puppet state, and he did just that. In fact, their plans actually accelerated his plans, as Diablo was very easily able to convince the, old king to abdicate and give the throne immediately to Yom, instead of, slowly and carefully trying to make that happen over the course of, years, basically. Yeah, sorry man, you two are not on the same side here. Granville, you want to keep Rimuru from taking over the economy because you want to, basically rule the world through economic means, whereas Damerda is a merchant, and he can make a lot of money working with Rimuru. Well, not him exactly, because, Hinata probably saw his face, but other people under him can certainly make money working with Rimuru. Seriously, that head pats, oh my god. There is so much wrong with that, given just so much happening behind the scenes. Good lord. I mean, yes, he absolutely does. In fact, if, he had come out on top and Rimuru had killed Hinata, he would have tried to convince Rimuru that you were the big bad enemy and worked with him to kill you. I mean, that shouldn't be much of a surprise. We saw the last meeting they had where Damerda literally said that his goal was to take over the West, to have the East to dominate the West, and that's not something you would have wanted at all, so obviously you two were always going to come to odds eventually. So I'm not so surprised, dude. Oh, I do absolutely love the intensity in his eyes. Seriously, this dude is a real threat here, and I love him. Okay, so they did skip the party and go right to the meeting? That feels... Like I said, I saw the pictures from the preview image of them actually at the party, so we're just gonna get flashbacks to it. I mean, that could be a good way of actually, showing all this off. Interesting. I absolutely love this. They are a religious organization, and they've all basically said, yeah, no, we don't actually believe in the God that our religious organization worships. Instead, we worship you as our one true God. Good lord. It actually reminds me of Arifureta, Aiko sensei. Her knights, the knights who were literally sent to seduce her, fall so absolutely and madly in love with her that they straight up abandon their god and just worship her. Oh, it's one of my favorite things about that series. I love it so much. Oh god, the blushing. Hinata is so cute when she lets her guard down.
ならいいけど。そしてこれからテンペストとルベリオスの今後について相談することになっていた。正教会としては魔物の国を認めるわけにはいかなかった。
Yeah, that's a big thing they have going on. Basically, the core tenet of their religion is do not trust monsters, do not negotiate with monsters, do not talk to monsters. And if they suddenly say, hey, there is a nation of monsters out there who are super friendly and nice, that is going to seriously tarnish their image and really shake faith. Like, imagine if tomorrow a city of demons just popped up and they were the nicest, friendliest people you'd ever met. They were super cool, they were super charitable, they were just awesome. The Catholic Church would have, a very hard time explaining, okay, I know we've said for centuries that demons were bad, but these demons over here, they're actually cool. Yeah, that would be a very, very interesting conversation they'd have to have with us. Yeah, also the whole, request by Archbishop Rahim to attack Tempest. I mean, even though that was, the instigating incident, they were already planning on taking down Tempest somehow, some way. They knew it was a threat. They knew it, called into question their entire religion, so they already want to take down Tempest, and then Archbishop Rahim said, hey, I want to take down Tempest, and they're like, cool, that works great for us. But yeah, also Hinata, super mad that Rimuru killed Suzue, or at least that she was told Rimuru killed Suzue. Certainly doesn't help that he did, in fact, actually eat her, but either way. Yep, there we go again. Rimuru was inspecting merchants for quite a while. He knew Clayman had merchants, and he knew that a merchant from the east suddenly came up to Falmouth and said, hey, check out all this great products we got from Tempest! Seriously? That's another thing. When they raided Clayman's temple, they found that so much of the stuff that was there had to have come from the east. A lot of magical stuff that was clearly teleported in from the east, and a lot of food that wasn't being grown in, Clayman's actual nation, and the only one he could have actually traded with was the east, because you can't teleport food. It spoils it. Yeah, don't feel God above. I love Xion just completely and fully tranquil and peaceful as Rimuru is letting his lord's ambition just flow out of him like that. Yeah, oh God, seriously, dude. You are a goddamn paladin. What is with that reaction? What is with that? Woo! Oh my god. Important to note that this Lord's ambition even shakes Hinata. That is how overpowered it is. Yeah, Rimuru didn't actually know he was doing that either, which I love. Seriously, I was actually ticked off. I read this line in light novel last night. She is upset. She is angry that Rimuru is insinuating that the 7-day clergy could have done something behind her back. She just murdered them for moving behind her back and trying to kill Hinata. That was literally something that happened yesterday, and now she's being all self-righteous about it? Seriously? And that's not even mentioning all the people they've killed over the centuries, like Alderman and anyone else who started to become just a little bit too powerful, a little bit too influential, a little bit too big enough they might even replace them before Luminous, be loved by Luminous more than they were. So yeah, I do not know why she's acting all self-righteous here when they've clearly been acting behind her back for literal centuries. Also, I love the fact that Lewis actually corrected her. Seriously, I know he's like fully loyal and obedient to her, but you have to have subordinates who are willing to correct you, or you will fail as a ruler, obviously. Yeah, love energy. That's actually what they're calling it. I saw a light novel and I'm like, oh, they've got to change that in the anime. There's no way they're going to call it love energy, but nope, actually called it love energy. Beautiful. And this is basically what's been keeping the 7-day clergy alive for literal centuries. Unfortunately, while they're originally getting love energy, I think it was even called Kisses of Passion or something, weekly in the beginning when they first started working for Luminous, it has now been several centuries, or at least been over a century since they last got it, and that's why they look so old. The love energy was keeping them alive, but without it, they just started to age and age and age. God, I love that reaction. Love energy? That's also the reason why they killed so many other champions and tried to kill Hinata, but also important to acknowledge that Luminous is immortal and has been around for literal millennia, so she does kind of forget about the whole, human mortality thing from time to time. I love like counting on his fingers to 7. Remember, it's not that hard. It's 2 sets of 3. Seriously. That Nicholas guy who was infatuated with you. Good lord. I love that Luminous pays no attention to the church whatsoever, but she still knows that this dude is infatuated with Hinata. And that is, just really saying something, considering the fact that all the paladins already said they, viewed Hinata as more important than the god herself. So, I mean, Nicholas is even more infatuated with her than the guys who are worshipping her as their goddess. That is genuinely terrifying. I mean, yeah, it wasn't heroic, but still, Granville is crazy strong, and this dude managed to kill him. That is still impressive. Okay, technically he didn't really kill him, he just destroyed his temporary body, but still, great move on his part. Yes, Granville was a genuine, actual freaking hero centuries ago. One who actually fought and lost against Luminous, very much like how Hinata fought and lost against her, and then decided, hey, I might as well just work for you if I can't beat you. Utterly insane. And like I said before, Granville is actually incredibly powerful and incredibly strong. Yeah, we haven't actually seen a hero yet in this season, in this series, which, yeah, okay, technically we saw a flashback of one, but I mean, let's not forget, it was a hero who sealed Veldora. That's kind of like the power scale we're talking about here. Someone who could actually relatively fight something like Veldora and not necessarily die. That's how insane these people can actually be. That's a very interesting thing. Anyone who calls themselves a hero, even if they aren't a real hero, are bound by fate to eventually get involved with a demon lord. In fact, back when Rimuru was first trying to pump up Yom as the champion who slayed the Orc disaster. He wanted to call him a hero, and everybody said no, because if he did that, he would end up fighting a demon lord and probably dying. It's some weird rule of the world where the two always are forced to fight one another. For the record, by the way, in the light novel, Yuki still wasn't revealed as the big bad. It was certainly implied, but he was only ever referred to as the boy. The boy laughed, the boy smiled, the boy plotted his revenge, the boy spoke to Clayman, blah 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 blah. So yeah, Yuki being the actual big bad was still a bit in the up in the air right now. Of course, I'm going to say that everyone's be like, no, it was so obvious, it was him, but I still had my doubts up to this point. In fact, this is the light novel where it was kind of revealed, as we didn't really see it here, but there was supposed to be a meeting between Damarda and Yuki, where Yuki basically said, hey, I'm going to do X. And then the boy said, I'm going to do X. And then at the end of the light novel, it was said, hey, the Free Trade Guild, which Yuki runs, did X. Which kind of really cemented, okay, yeah, they're one and the same. The boy is Yuki, obviously. I mean, yeah, Yuki is definitely suspicious. I mean, think back to when they first fought with Rimuru. He's like, oh, you have my master's face, and then there's this whole back and forth battle. But, like, he's the leader of the Free Trade Guild. He has spies everywhere. Of course he would have known about Rimuru. Of course he would have known about the situation that Rimuru looks like his master, and yet he acted all surprised, like, oh, who are you? I've never heard of you before. It was all bits, and Rimuru knows it. He just doesn't know why he pretended it, why he did the whole bit thing. God, I love how cold Hinata is. Seriously, Yuki is not only, from Japan like her, but was her fellow student under Suzue, and yet now she's like, oh, yeah, he might actually be the big bad. You might be right about that. It's not like they have like this weird relationship where they're constantly at each other's throats. She's just so cold and calculating that she is willing to believe that someone she trusts, that her senpai, could actually be the big bad. Yeah, also Rimuru's whole thing, like, from your own homeland? Rimuru, your people have killed at least 2 people from your homeland. Just because they're from Japan doesn't mean they're actually your friends. Hey, this is... Okay, this is the light novel too, and I had questions about it. Scones and french fries with tea or coffee. Does that go together? Has anyone ever actually had scones and french fries? Like, seriously, is that a combination? Because that sounded so weird when I was reading light novel, and yeah, they actually kept it and drew it in very good detail, which just, why? Why is this a thing? And of course, Veldora is literally reading a light novel while he eats it. While in the midst of a meeting, by the way. Seriously, why are you even at the table? Shouldn't you be on like a couch in the back or something? Also in light novel, he requested a double portion of food. Okay, so also something I'll mention here. While it does seem, I'm sure people are going to complain, oh, Rimuru is too easy to forgive Hinata, his people are fully fine with it, as they are monsters, and they've always believed in survival of the fittest. If they had been wiped out by Hinata, it would simply been because they were too weak. Even if, she was wrong about them and accidentally killed them all, again, it's just because they were too weak to actually fight back against her, to actually win. They were not strong, therefore they died. Also, yeah, Luminous really doesn't want to owe Rimuru a favor, especially because that could mean owing Veldora a favor, and that is the absolute last thing she would ever want. Yeah. Wait, did Veldora just turn that manga volume into a shield? Yeah, he literally just turned that manga volume into a shield. Okay, that was cool. Yeah, literally, manga shield. Okay, I guess. Yes, seriously. Rimuru is fully willing to sacrifice Veldora to ensure the prosperity of his nation. God, that is freaking savage. Seriously. Yes, he absolutely freaking is.
気のせいだよベルドラック。待て待て、お前が君とかつけるときは。
I love it. Absolutely love it. Seriously, Rimmer really does have the heart of a monster. Though it does also help that Veldora is borderline immortal, so there's nothing that Luminous can actually do to really hurt him too much, too permanently. 100 years. Yeah, like I said, she is immortal and has a very warped perspective on time. So 100 years is basically the blink of an eye for her. They're actually calling him Sir Rimuru. Love that. And also, good point. Rimuru, spared all of their lives after they were well and thoroughly beaten that last battle. Yeah, I love this. Within the span of like a day, they've all decided, you know what? The entire tenet of our religion, the whole monsters are evil thing, let's forget about that because this dude has crazy good food. And didn't murder us when we invaded him. Yay! Oh God, above that blush. Seriously, Zoe, what did you do to this girl? That she's calling you a gentleman. Yeah, that is... There's a lot there, honestly. Seriously? Oh, yes, they're all looking at him like, what did you do, man? Seriously, what did you do? Rigard and Benimaru, that is such an amazing combo. Yeah, like I said before, the faith's full teaching is that monsters are evil, monsters are bad, never talk to monsters, and now they're basically saying, oh no, we're recognizing this entire nation of monsters as being not bad, not evil, okay, fine, don't worry about them. That's gonna raise some serious questions. Yep. The core tenet of the religion that they are faithfully following wasn't even written by their actual god, just the leaders of the time. Honestly, it might have actually been written by Grainville, considering the timeline. Good freaking lord. And yet they have lived to it thoroughly ever since then. I mean, they weren't even really like laws meant to be like followed faithfully forever. It was more just like a guide for living a good and, happy life, basically. Especially since back then monsters were way more dangerous and humanity was almost always on the verge of going extinct. Yeah, which, I mean, that sounds like a super nice thing to say, like, oh, we're making sure they live happy lives. But also important to acknowledge that vampires, when vampires drink blood, the taste of the blood depends on the happiness of the individual. So basically, back then, when everyone was suffering and miserable and awful, the blood tasted awful as well. But then, they started protecting people, they started making them happy, they started, really pumping up the evil demon lord Valentine to scare them, only to offer them salvation and protection within the nation of Ubelius, and they were so happy, they were so thrilled, their blood became delicious. Huzzah! Yeah, also, let's not forget an entire team of journalists who saw two of the battle sages defeated, well, one defeated and one ran away, and were then almost murdered by the 7-day clergy, the leaders, the saints of the church. There's going to be a lot of questions about that, and the church either needs to reform or, die, essentially. Faith is already going to be shaken as a result of that, so the best they can do is just try to be like, oh, the 7-day clergy were corrupting the church. They had grown fat and arrogant over time, and now we are doing things differently. Now we are revitalizing the church. We are changing the old ways and bringing forth the start of a new society, a new world where we can work hands in hand with those monsters and demi-humans who aren't trying to murder us 24/7. Huzzah!
それならさ、俺とひなたが相打ちになったってことにしたらいいじゃん。
Yeah, for the record, monsters never would do that. A monster would never say, "Oh, I lost," or give credit to somebody else. This was a big thing back when Rimuru first, hyped up Yom as the champion who slew the orc disaster. Everybody was shocked that Rimuru would give away credit for killing the orc disaster to someone else, but it made perfect sense to him because, if he slew a monster that could have wiped out an entire nation, that means he is strong enough to wipe out an entire nation, and everybody would be terrified of him. But if he was just like, oh, I'm a friendly old monster who helped take down this big bad threat, then he is a friendly monster that other people can rely on. This does mean that he gets underestimated, both back then and now, as a result of saying, oh, it was just a draw, but still, it was a draw against the strongest human in the entire West. That's a pretty good, thing you put on your resume. I fought to a draw against Hinata, a feat no other human could actually do.
別にいいよ。
その通りですよ。あなたはまだ魔王になりたてなんです。そんな状況で
I absolutely love this so much. The paladins are literally stepping up to say, no, you can't do that. It'll make you look bad. It'll hurt your image. We can't have that happen. They're trying so hard to protect Rimuru, to protect a monster, and I absolutely love it.
体力に舐められたりでもしたら、仮にそんな愚か者がいたならば、俺がひねり潰してみせます。
Twist their heads off with my bare hands. That sounds about right. And I mean, seriously, if you think about it, among the West at least, there aren't, besides, Yuki, but they don't really know about Yuki, there's no real big threat who could actually hurt Tempest. I mean, there's the nation of Ingracia, which is, I think, the biggest nation in the West, but they are very far away. And if the Luminous religion says, hey, Tempest is fine, they're very unlikely to actually start any problems with them. So, yeah, Rimuru is basically on top right now.
すごい自信ね。それは今までも議論に上がっていましたわ。ですが、
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Apparently, ogres and lizard men are technically demi-humans, but they've regularly been treated as monsters, which, especially by the church, which has caused some issues. In fact, even dwarves have been kind of discriminated against because they aren't fully human in the past. So, yeah, there is a lot wrong with this whole society.
偏見から来る差別であると、私は。
Again with the blushing. Seriously, Zoe, what did you do to this girl?
人と敵対する亜人の存在が厄介だが、ドワーフなどは紛れもなく人類の一員だろう。
だったら、ガゼル王も。
Yeah, so mixing in Gazelle as well will really help not only secure the treaty, as it basically means the Tempest is being backed by Luminous and the Dwarven Kingdom, but it will help support the dwarves, who will no longer be discriminated against and will be treated as full humans instead of, kinda on the edge of not being human.
着込んで100年の遊戯を結べばいいんじゃないか。俺たちが人を襲わないという保証があれば、少しは信用してもらえるだろう。そうね。
Also, nobody's actually eating their food. I'm pretty sure in the light novel, the food came out, they all ate it, and then they continued the meeting instead of just talking, letting the scones and french fries go cold.
あれば少しは説得しやすいわね。
今後の交流として、アルノとバッカスをテンペストに滞在させましょう。
Yeah, I mean, they're not complaining at all. They've tried Tempest food. They've tried the Tempest bathhouse. They know how wonderful it is, and they don't want to leave. God, I love it.
じゃあ、こっちはルミナス教の教会を建設しておく。
Yeah, Luminous Church in a temple of monsters. Luminous Church in a city of monsters, a nation of monsters, is just so absolutely hilarious. But it's also just a really great way of showing, okay, yeah, we can actually get along. That said, Rimuru is fully planning on spying on the church and making sure they aren't up to anything. And I'm sure the church is planning the same thing for Rimuru, spying on him, making sure he's not plotting anything that could, harm humanity as a whole. Yeah, they're all just having a grand old time. God, I love it.
今後の友好を祈願して
Come
乾杯。
by! Yeah, so for the record, this world does have beer, but it's room temperature and not carbonated, so it tastes awful, and now its paladins get to taste like true, actual beer, and they are loving it. Even the rank and file just, having fun and the goblins partying, getting drunk. God, it's beautiful.
いやー、お酒に酔えるってのはやっぱりいいね。昨日の宴
Okay, so there were two parties, a last party and a current party, and they're flashing back and forth between the two. Interesting.
で心血を注いでおるわ。どこ向こう
Yeah, so that's a whole thing. Basically, because Rimuru has poison nullification, he can't actually get drunk, as his body basically treats alcohol as a poison. Because alcohol is, in fact, a poison! And I am amazed we still drink it so regularly in our modern-day society. Huzzah! Anyway, though, because of that, Rimuru can't get drunk, except now he finds out he can actually get drunk.
ことできるの当然であろう。教えてくれ。
Yeah, seriously, it's such an obvious thing that Luminous actually thinks Rimuru is joking with her, like, oh, stop pretending, you must have figured it out on your own by now. And maybe he would have, but Raphael very much did not want him getting drunk and making a fool of himself.
いや、教えてください。
Like, literally getting down on his hands and knees and begging. That is not a good look, Rimuru. Oh god, the tears. Actual freaking tears. Oh my god, I love that so much. Seriously. Yeah, she actually finally gets to have white rice for the first time in the decade she's been in this world. Also, for the record, it is very hard to make white rice in this world. Even with an entire team, yes, I'm not kidding you, an entire team of engineers working on it. The only way Rimuru can actually get true white rice is to have Shion actually do the final harvesting and use her master chef skill to make it more authentic, to make it more similar to what he's used to back in Japan.
というかね、白米って、あなたちょっと好き放題しすぎなんじゃないの？文句があるなら。
Oh, I love sassy drunk Rimuru. If you don't like it, I'll be glad to take it away. Oh, that's beautiful. But yeah, like I said before in a previous video, Hinata has been literally struggling to survive since coming to this world, and has seen the world, seen all the people struggling to just barely get by, and now Rimuru's like, yeah, I have an entire team of engineers just dedicated to making me white rice because I wanted it. I can do whatever the freak I want. I am god of this nation.
白米は返してもらっても、そういう話をしているんじゃないわよ。
She's so selfish. She doesn't want anybody taking away her rice.
だけど、ここまで完璧にここまで暮らしやすい環境を作るとはね。もっと褒めてくれてもいいよ。ふざけない。
God, I love drunk Rimuru. Seriously.
勇気から噂は聞いたけど。生み出せる下地を作りたいのさ。
I mean, he can already replicate any manga he's already read before, as we see because Veldora is always freaking reading manga. So, yeah, I mean, he could basically create manga from scratch on his own. But I think what he wants to do moving forward is actually create like an industry for manga, actually create and raise up, goblins, people from this world who can draw and turn them into manga artists, and then start spreading out manga made and designed by people of this world, an entirely new art form that these people have never seen before.
脅威は俺たちが取り除く。
Yeah, really, he just literally said, hey, Church, I know you've been struggling to, keep people safe from monsters for literal centuries, millennia, but I'm gonna make sure that monsters are never a threat to people again, and just let them party it up and have fun. Which might sound insane, but also entirely possible. He rules the Forest of Jura, which is like the main place where monsters actually come from. I mean, there's other places as well, but for the most part, the monsters that humans have to face off against come from the forest, so yeah, if he can make sure that those monsters aren't a threat anymore, he can basically establish world peace, which, awesome.
隠しても意味がないから言っちゃうけど、ヨウムを王に樹立して新国家を起こし。
Yeah, we're gonna make Yoma king. I'm just gonna spill out all my plans right now because I am just that freaking drunk.
影響力を持てるようにするつもりさ。一体何をするつもり？まずはね。
Well, I'm planning essentially world domination, but, without me having to do too much.
偉いさんたちが俺たちのことを知
Yeah,
る
I mean, the Elf Nation, the Dwarf Nation, Blumend, and now Fulmus all basically are on Rimuru's side, all support him as a real nation, not to mention, Luminous, the entire religion itself, meaning humanity pretty much already accepts him, and Grassi is really like the last big holdout, I'd say.
だし商人や冒険者たちからも噂は流れるこうも同じような結果だった
Yes, Rimuru is actually planning on creating basically telephone lines that can connect the entire world together. This is such an insane thing to actually plot out. Yeah, that is a lot, seriously. I mean, Shion has no real idea what he's saying, but she's smiling anyway. Well, the Paladins are like, that is literally the most insane thing we've ever heard of in our entire lives. And we just found out our god was a demon lord.
普通そういうのは国家機密扱いの情報なのだ
Yes, but Rimuru is very, very drunk, so he doesn't care.
あ確かになおこの体制への再干渉は
Yeah, Raphael is literally a wife who just kept cut off her husband and made sure that he can't drink anymore. God above.
期間受け付けられません
Yep. Now he's sober and realized, oh, I probably shouldn't have said all of that. Oops.
せっかくの酒がそれにあまり派手にしすぎる
Yes, the angels. They basically show up every 500 years and destroy anything that's too technologically advanced. And this is basically the reason why the society, even though it's thousands of years old, hasn't really advanced much past the medieval ages, because every time they start to progress, angels show up and kill everybody. So yeah, that's a pretty big issue right there, and one the Tempest is gonna need to deal with eventually.
天使
一定以上に都市が発展すると
その時は私たちと共闘することになるかもね
I mean, it's not a bad plan. These are literal angels who are trying to stop the advancement of civilization. That's a threat to everybody, and taking them out would be just super beneficial for everyone.
わらわとしても二度とわらわの都を破壊させはせんよ
I mean, that's the entire reason why her city is actually underground, is to make sure the angels can't attack again. Not her nation, Lubelius, but the vampire city is actually underground, deep underground, to make sure that nobody, no angels or flying lizard, could actually burn it to the ground a second time.
どもにもそこのトカゲにもな
もう難しい話は後でいいじゃないですか。ひなた様、言わないんだろ。
Oh, good lord, man. Do not take Hinata's meat. That is like the worst thing you could possibly do. Oh, he ate it. He actually ate the meat. Oh, bad. I'm sorry, Fritz. You gotta die now.
あなた死にたいのかしら
Oh, that intensity. Seriously, man.
ひなた様、目がマジ。
ドワーフ王国の存在を友になりうる人類として認め
Yes, the Dwarven Nation is now considered a land of humans. Dwarves are humans, so huzzah, no more discrimination, hopefully.
よ続けて
さようです。
Alright, so this is the other half of that scene. I mean, like I said, at the start of this volume light novel, it began with Dombretta talking to Granville, and then switched over to him talking to Yuki and plotting out their next big move.
奴らめ、帝国で猛威を振るったブランに匹敵するやもしれぬ。
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, they're both primordial demons, except Blanc didn't actually have a name, so therefore Diablo, way more terrifying, way more powerful, way more dangerous.
べき悪魔です。
正直言ってあの勢力を正面から相手するのは愚策だよね。
勝てないとは申しませんが。
That's terrifying right there. They're actually saying we have enough manpower to take on Tempest and not lose. We could burn that city to the ground and kill everyone there, and we would probably have a pretty good chance at that. But we would lose so many members in the process that it's just not worth it.
ケルベルスも壊滅するでしょうが。
ひなたを殺すことはないと思っていたさ。
Yeah, this whole thing was basically Yuki just, trying to poke Rimuru a little bit to get back at him for killing Clayman. He kind of figured it wouldn't actually work, but still, he wanted to have some fun. Because he is that messed up in the head.
う まくいけば彼の方が滅んでくれるんじゃないかと。
Also, maybe there was a chance that Hinata would actually end up killing Rimuru because he was too soft to kill her. It could happen, maybe, possibly.
っていたんだけどね。
あなた様から連絡がなければ。
で彼に手柄を立てさせておこうと思ってね。
Yes, him. That person.
あらというと
Oh, yes, say his name, say his name.
面白いことを思いつく。
だろう。
Oh, we're about to meet one of the best characters in this entire series. I'm so freaking excited for it.
その手はずは任せていいかな。
So yeah, Yuki's secretary is in fact the former demon lord Kazalam, who was killed by Leon, who now wants revenge against him. But now that, Clayman's dead, they're kind of forced to adapt and use this female host, this female body, this homunculus. And so therefore they're going by Hagli moving forward just to, really embrace the role until they gain enough power to actually get their revenge. Next time, the preparation, which, yeah, sounds about right, considering we're now in Volume 8, and I'd say the entire rest of this volume is just preparing for Volume 9, and that is not even an exaggeration. It is so much prep work, seriously. Alright, so overall, this episode went further than I expected. They included some of the stuff they cut out from the previous party, like Hinata being obsessed with the rice, but I don't know, they still cut out so much. I'm really disappointed about this. I mean, seriously. So many meetings this season, and yet the actual party thing got cut out so much. Seriously. God, that's a bummer right there. But, alright, so, a few things I mentioned about this party. Basically, Rimuru has entire teams of people working on just making food that he had back in Japan, and now his diet is basically the same as it was in Japan, as he has all his favorite foods back with him. As for the fish, there's so much fish at this party. That's basically thanks to Geld, whose stomach skill has the ability Gourmet, which allows him to store food inside of himself and then teleport to other, members with the same skill, other members of his orc team. And this prevents the food from being, subjected to massive magicules, meaning it's not poisoned, meaning they can have fresh fish whenever they freaking want it. Of course, it's still, skill dependent, which Rimuru doesn't really like. He's like, oh, that kind of limits the people who can work in Tempest. That kind of limits what we can do. I'd rather, just keep on improving, keep on doing better until we have a way to do this without needing to rely on skills. Also, Shuna has just managed to remake so many of the dishes that Rimuru had back in Japan. Basically, Rimuru just, telepathically sends messages into her mind, like, this is the food I had back in Japan, this is what it tasted like. I think these are the kind of sort of ingredients that were in it, and she's managed to replicate a lot of them, like tempura, even though Rimuru had a very hard time explaining how tempura was different from fried shrimp. I have never really had either, so I couldn't tell you. Alright, so also Rimuru got crazy drunk and actually had a seriously bad hangover for this entire meeting right here. When he's talking with Luminous, when he's deciding the fate of Tempest, he is nursing a bad hangover, and Raphael is just so royally ticked at him. It is hilarious. Anyway, though, now Rimuru Tempest has formal relationships with both Dwarven and Luminous religion, meaning the rest of the world is going to actually treat him as a real nation rather than just some oddball, rather than just some upstart demon lord monster. And, he already had a pretty good reputation from all the adventurers and merchants who came to Tempest, and it's only going to get better from here because, oh, thank God. I mean, it was mentioned a few episodes back before the fight with Hinata, but Rimuru was planning on holding this massive, huge founding festival party to celebrate him becoming a demon lord and let all the monster tribes within the forest of Jura come to him and basically swear allegiance to him so that he will protect them and he won't murder them. Huzzah! And that is the rest of this season, basically. I know that might sound boring, but believe me, it is so fun. It is so exciting. Just, once we get past the preparations. Though even the prep work has just so many fun scenes, fun characters, and I'm so excited for so many parts of it. Oh god, especially the one girl. That is gonna be... Oh, that is gonna be interesting. But please, let me know what you think down below. What do you think of Luminous actually forming official relationships with Tempest? What do you think is going to happen moving forward? How is the big founding festival going to go? And what are Yuki and Granville planning? Also, who is the mysterious he that Yuki said could, take credit for taking down the Ortho Slaving Company? Whoever could they be? Dun dun dun. But until next time, peace!